Raven-Symoné and Miranda Pearman-Maday, the new co-hosts of the best podcast ever. Thank you for joining me and Danny on Virtual Reality. We thought we were the best podcast ever, but yeah, y'all really are. We listened to the first episode. It was so good. So good.
Thank you so much. Listening. You guys are a great podcast.
Yeah. I'll take a bronze medal any day.
We're gonna cry. The fact you said that
podcast, but we're the best podcast ever. There's a difference.
Yeah. There's a level. And I love
status, best status. Yeah. Hey, at least none of us are the worst, but that's a status too.
And how was it like launching the podcast? Because you two obviously have worked together, you have a great relationship, but there's something very different about taking all of that and putting it in front of a microphone, and then you're like, oh, we just talked for an hour. Oh, and everyone can listen to it. Was there like a fear, all excitement? How are we feeling after the launch?
For me, it was all excitement. Really, honestly, I love being in our podcast room, which we're in right now. I love recording. I love our conversations. Raven and I have had guests on the show, but obviously the first episode is just the two of us. And at the end of that episode, I was like, yes, this was so great. And honestly, why I wanted to start the podcast was because I love having conversation with Raven. And I think it's cool to talk to somebody who has different views than you, and we often do have different ideas or views, and I was like, this is great, let's do it. So for me, it was all fun. The hardest part is the things that happen outside of the podcast room. It's all the getting the nuts and bolts in the right places and that, but this stuff is great. I love it. I love a microphone. Give me a microphone.
And I feel like you guys are probably learning so much about each other, even 3 years into marriage. Listening to the first episode, I feel like you guys were discovering new things about each other, whether it was the fact that Raven lived in a hostel in San Francisco and was washing her face in a bucket.
Yeah.
Or what it was like to live with Lindsay Lohan at the Palazzo, or figuring out that we never want a roommate with Lady Gaga. Like, what are you learning about each other during this experience?
We learned so much about each other. Obviously, we had a very big deep dive first episode, but as we continue to spin the wheel, have a random word, and have other people in the conversation with us, it sparks conversation that we typically wouldn't have over breakfast, which in turn creates education about ourselves to each other. And I think that that is an amazing thing to have with people. And sometimes we take for granted and tend to like, I know you, I don't need to know anything more about you. But if you have somebody that you've been friends with for 30 years and you've gone to the movies, you've done this, we've traveled together. Okay. But have you sat in a room with a stranger and that stranger brought up a topic? You're going to learn something different about that person because new vibrations bring new communications.
Very true, very true. And you guys are going to be vibrating pretty hard with a slew of like A-list guests. Like the lineup is so packed. Jojo Siwa, Adrienne Bailon, Keke Palmer. Like, who are you most excited to get in the studio and chat to?
I was excited to talk to everybody. I worked really hard on booking people, and because I was kind of in control of that, the first group of people were people I was really excited to talk to and admire and love and respect. And it was every single one of them was, honestly, I know that's not totally the answer you're maybe looking for, but they were all so fantastic. I was equally thrilled.
Well, the answer I'm kind of wondering right now is because, of course, you have so many people on that we're so excited about, and I can't wait to hear you guys talk to Keke Palmer. But after the few weeks she's been having, is there anything you wish you would have like brought up in the interview that you're like, oh, why didn't we? Like, do you have any questions like that? Or did you just text her them yourselves after?
So yeah, we did record this before the controversy that she's going through right now. And, there's two sides to that answer for me. One, of course, we want to stay topical. We want to give that person a platform to speak their truth without judgment, unless I'm judging you. And on the other side, I and my wife feel like giving them a space to where they don't have to defend themselves. They don't have to talk about what everyone's talking about, and they can just talk about, a lime and why they like it on a taco because that's, what they're doing. I think that that's what our podcast is for. You can come on, you can have that conversation about the serious topic and really clear the air, or you can come on and talk about absolutely nothing and we can still have fun. Yes, if that situation had happened before we recorded it, we would have asked her. But that's not what we're down for juicy stuff. Like we're down for juicy stuff, but we're not juicy forward. You know what I mean?
I like that.
I see. Now, as a couple who is navigating a relationship in Hollywood in the public eye, do you have any advice for Kiki as she kind of moves through this situation? I feel like she's handling it really well, from the sassy Instagram post to the merch.
Kiki does not need
Help
from us. She
fine. She just
she
fine.
is so A-okay.
And she will continue to be A-okay.
And wait, you're gonna have to fill me in. So Kiki made merch?
Yeah, she made some merch about the whole situation. I think she has sweatshirts that say "I'm a mother" because she was getting a little mommy shamed for the outfit she decided to wear to the Usher concert. So she's like, well, I am a mother and I can wear whatever the hell I want. And now you can buy my merch.
That's so interesting because I recently heard that Jonah Hill did the same thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a little different, right?
I'm buying Kiki's merch. I'm not buying Jonah's merch.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you got to update Raven on the Jonah situation.
But I was just like, is this a new trend now in like celebrity world where you're having public breakups and then making merch? I was like, wow, okay, because that's two people.
It's the thing to do, I guess.
I would also, can I say, if you see me at Usher's residency, don't question what I'm wearing because I'm just praying.
Exactly.
No, I am super excited to hear the conversation that you guys have with JoJo Siwa. I feel like that's going to be super interesting because your podcast is done through Outspoken, which is the LGBTQIA plus component of iHeart. And obviously this is a safe space for conversations for queer people. What can you say about the conversation that you had with JoJo? Because this is also really interesting. Raven, as someone who grew up as a child star, I feel like there was probably so much to possibly unpack together.
JoJo is first and foremost a friend of this married couple. Like, she is our adopted baby sister. She will forever be. And when we had her on the podcast, we were doing no gimme gotchas. Like, we didn't try to dive into personal conversations that we had. We respected her privacy in that way. But we also know that she is a grown ass woman and she has conversations that, might not align with the bows, but she's growing up. You know what I mean?
JoJo was super great to talk to. She was very open. Mm-hmm. We talked about love life. We talked about her recent burglary. She opened up about that and that whole experience, which I thought was really interesting.
Love bombing.
And then you're gonna have to listen to the episode to get all the rest. But she was open. We dove into some cool stuff.
I also feel
relationships.
She probably appreciated the conversation with you two because, like you said, it's beyond the bows. And I'm like, because everybody, even when she announced it, like she came out and everything, people are like, oh, she's a kid. Like, it's like, no, she's a fully adult. You were just picturing her as you knew her on Dance when she was like a literal child, but she's lived life from then.
I totally empathize and understand that barrier that you have when you grow up in the public eye. I started when I was 16 months old. So I have people that are like, you can't get married. You're 7. I'm like, well, I'm 37. I'm about 38 years old. So when JoJo has those conversations and we have them publicly and privately, it's like, I understand. You know what I mean? You're always fighting that outside person's idea of you as a kid even as you grow up. But at the same time, it's also good because we look 12 and our skin is gorgeous, honey. JoJo's skin is fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that was a tangent, but I just thought
No, I love to hear that. I love to hear that. I also love to hear on this first episode of the best podcast ever that, you know, your love language is kind of sending TikToks to each other, which I think is so relatable because me and my fiance are the exact same. But it had me and Danny curious, Raven. On TikTok, a lot of like old clips from That's So Raven, from The View, even your Instagram lives, they pop up, they make the rounds. What has been your reaction as a couple to some of these clips? What are your favorite moments to relive? And are you ever just tempted to be like, oh my God, please scroll through it. I can't relive this again.
Yeah, I definitely have ones that I scroll through, and then there'll be ones from when I was very young. Like my wife was like, "Look, you're so cute, little baby."
I was gonna say, well, first of all, you've called us out now. The only TikToks that we ever send each other are TikToks of Raven. We just send one TikTok of Raven back, and that's it. It's all just Raven in the. No, I'm kidding. Go on.
No, it's okay. Like there was one that was circulating around where I was reading a poem to Muhammad Ali. Remember? And you watch that one, so it's interesting.
Her baby ones get me so hard. There's that one. There's the one that she did with you were on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And he asks about her having a baby brother and she hears boyfriend. So she goes, "Watch yourself, Mr. Carson." And he's like, "What?" It's the cutest thing. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that. The cutest thing in the world. And I will also say that the Cheetah Girls moment on TikTok has really, oh my God.
Shut all the way the F up. Look at it. Who's the other faces on there on the
It's all four of you. It's all four of you.
Oh, okay. I was like, who the
Yeah, no, I wore this shirt
He bought it.
for a
He
reason.
bought it on a fake website.
I was like,
I just made
not normal.
fan bought it.
No, I grew up on the Cheetah Girls. That was my my lifeline. So
Oh, I love that.
anything Cheetah Girls is my freaking jam.
You know, my wife just saw that movie a month ago.
Thoughts?
Miranda.
Both of their
know,
mouths
I
just
know.
opened all the way up.
I just watched it for the first time, like she said a month ago. And I had to understand why people want to wear those shirts. And now I get it. And but TikTok though was kind of my entryway into it because I was seeing all these little moments and, you know, girls strutting in Barcelona. I'm like, what is happening? And now I get it fully. And
So when we had our interview with Adrian on the show, she had not seen the Cheetah Girls.
No, I had just seen it.
You saw the first one, not the second one.
Correct.
And yeah, so it was interesting to have this conversation and like me and Adrian know what's up. And my wife is like, I just got there. It was like a wonderful conversation.
She's like, no spoilers, please.
Exactly.
But you know what? I am jealous of someone watching the Cheetah Girls for the first time with virgin eyes because I remember when I was like in 6th or 7th grade when I watched it for the first time, what a magical and momentous experience that was for me. So what a blessed experience for you in your 30s.
And here's the kicker for everyone. I was literally sitting next to
my name.
Oh my God. I can't
What was my
remember her
name, babe?
Wait.
It's also known as a mall.
Okay, Galleria.
Yes. Okay.
There it is.
I was sitting, but that's the thing that's so weird. It's like I'll see Raven on screen. I don't connect the two at all.
Well, I'm not.
I know. It's so interesting. It's just like so far from who she is that Galleria is Galleria, not my wife. Anyway,
I also, whenever, because you guys say my wife a lot on the podcast, I always say it in the Borat voice, even like my wife.
My wife.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing that.
My wife.
But so as Evan is in his Cheetah Girl shirt, Miranda, I'm wondering, is there someone who, if they were a guest on your podcast, you'd be like, oh, I have a shirt in the closet? Like, is there someone you are like dying to have on? And you're both are nodding, so there is an answer.
Well, the only person that I could do that with is Elton John. Because if Elton was on the show, we went to his concert and Raven bought like 6 of his shirts, but I also have
why did I buy 6, babes? I bought 6 because my wife is particular and I wanted to make sure she was happy. And
yeah, it was lovely. It's not a criticism.
Okay,
it was like, thank you. You bought 6. But I have a vintage Elton John shirt from his okay, wait for it. It's like a muscle tee. It's super cute. And
It was the early 80s.
Don't Go Breaking My
Yeah.
Heart tour or something like that. It's one of those tour shorts, and that's the one I'd put on for sure because that's like legit. But Elton, yeah, Sir Elton John.
Oh my God, Elton, if you're listening, we've got to get you on the best podcast ever.
Elton, please.
Elton, come talk to the vibes.
What would be your first question for Elton?
Okay, well, I have some personal connections to Elton. He and my father actually work together. So I would probably be like, Elton, tell me about your experience with Lestat, because my dad produced a Broadway musical called Lestat. And I get it confused with Interview with the Vampire. It's based off of Anne Rice's, but the musical was called Lestat. And Elton John and Bernie Taupin did the music for it. And I was there as a little girl, kind of taking it all in. And I'd have a million questions about that experience.
Now, would you make Elton wear a costume to Erewhon if he lost the game at the end?
Yeah.
She don't get I absolutely would. I made her wear one. I would be like, Sir Elton. And you know what? Elton would do it. Elton
Hell
would
yeah,
put
he
on
would.
his feathers.
I feel like he would.
Yeah, I feel like he's
he
already
would have-
worn a chicken suit, but it was just Gucci, so it didn't really.
Oh my-
Exactly. With rhinestones.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
fine.
was like, what are you talking about? Very-
Good point. No, Danny and I were just talking before we started recording how if we ran into Raven strutting around Erewhon in this chicken costume, how that would just be the most insanely like most
Fever
perfect
dream.
LA experience. Like there would be nothing but did people recognize you? Were they like, oh my God, that's Raven in a chicken suit?
So here's what happened, right? Raven was like, here's the plan, Miranda. Like, you're going to have to go ahead of me. You're the filmer. You can't up. This has to be. So don't really be near me. Cool. Okay. Which meant she was inside at checkout finishing and she was walking out towards me. So I'm outside. And there was a woman who had been in Erewhon. And she was standing out there with her boyfriend. And she was like, that's Raven. And he was like, no, it's not. And she's like, no, that's Raven-Symoné. And he was like, no, it's not. I was watching her have a little bit of a breakdown because I realized what was happening for her. I imagine this is what was happening, which is basically she felt like she was transported back in time into a
2015.
That's So Raven scene. And she was watching it happen before her eyes because that's what it was. It was a scene from That's So Raven. And I think the woman at the cash register
No, the woman at the cash register didn't even recognize me. She was just happy about the chicken suit. And she asked me what the name of the chicken was. And I randomly said Mark. Come to find out, her bracelet said Mark. So that's why she also wanted to take a picture. And I was like, this is for you, boo. This is obviously for you.
Hilarious.
Oh, that is honestly hilarious. Speaking of That's So Raven, I am just curious to get your thoughts on a recent interview that Annalise Vanderpool did with Christy Carlson Romano. She was spilling the tea. She had a lot to say about the beginning stages and the early days of That's So Raven. Do you have any sort of thoughts, feelings, and opinions about the things that she said?
No. I ain't got nothing to say. I love Annalisa. I think she's one of the most talented women that I've ever worked with my entire life and coming future as well. No offense, babes. It's a different love for Annalisa than you. You're my wife.
Why are you even bringing it into me?
I just wanted to say, because I think you're awesome. Anyway, I think she's amazing and she's not lying.
Okay.
I mean, from what I heard, I didn't listen to it. I do remember touching Christy's titties though.
Okay, I love that. See, this is the thing. I'm glad we could get the clarity and clarification with you.
I thought they talked about that.
Not touching.
What did she say?
It's okay.
I thought she said that.
I think that part, but I'm gonna go back and listen to that part, Raven.
We're gonna listen to the Cheetah Girls, then that podcast interview again, and
well, here.
Now you just gotta Raven confirming.
Yeah,
that was never said.
I'm not. I feel like anyway.
No, they were just saying that you guys liked them and that she showed them to you guys.
Oh yeah, I went poop.
I hope your game has increased since poop.
Yeah.
Oh, it has. Oh, it has. Thank you, Christy, for letting. No, I'm just playing. But no. Listen, I think Annalisa is a talented human, and not mad at her. I don't have any comment as to what she said. Actually, like I don't really need to comment.
I see. Well, I do love how in 2023, all of these, Disney stars, former child stars who have, grown up in the public eye, a lot of you feel so free to be your unfiltered selves, talk about what you want to talk about, say how you feel. And I do feel like Christy Carlson Romano is constantly saying how she feels. Would you ever welcome her onto this show? I feel like that would be a really interesting conversation to have her on the best podcast ever.
Babes is the booker of the show, so she has to go through her.
Is Miranda interested in booking Christy?
I totally would. Yeah, I think that the more conversation, the more the merrier. Let's have. And Christy has actually reached out to me, offline, and seems really lovely. We've yet to meet in person, but I would absolutely be open to having Christy on the podcast.
Well, we can't wait to listen to that upcoming episode, but also all of the other episodes and the podcast in general, because your guys like banter together. It is just, I feel like I'm like on the chair with you guys, like eavesdropping in, and it's such a delight.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. The episodes are out. We're loving them. Check us out on the best pod ever for Instagram too.
The first one is out. The other ones will be released
sequentially.
And you need to do podcast Instagram to see the chicken costume.
Yes, you guys got to head over there. And so when do new episodes drop so our listeners can check you out?
We drop every Monday, and I'm not sure when does this air?
Thursdays. Or this will be next Thursday.
This will go next Thursday? Okay, so then they drop every Monday, and out now you have our first episode and our second episode with Demi Lovato to go listen to.
Oh my God. We are running to go listen to that. That's going to be so good. Thank you guys so much. Again, this was wonderful. And dream come true.
It's been a pleasure.
You guys are awesome.